All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Todd Brous. I am your host for the evening. I'm here with Susan Schultz and Ashley Wilson, and we would like to welcome everyone to HBAP Startups. So let's get started. For those of you who are new to the Startups group, we have a few announcements that we do at the beginning of each meeting. We'll do some short networking breakout rooms, and then we'll come back together for our main event. First off is our mission. We're here to help foster and fortify an innovation and entrepreneur community coming out of the Harvard Business Analytics program. And our goal is to provide our members with the tools, knowledge, leadership, and confidence necessary to create and grow their businesses from the ground up. We do have a couple of places for you to get engaged with us and stay connected. I'm going to put these into the Zoom chat, just a bunch of links. Please do subscribe to our newsletter and make sure you're getting that so you know that we're here. Bring a guest. We love it. What else? Okay, some upcoming stuff. February 11th, and for those of you who are into business in any way, shape, or form, we're going to be having a live session discussion that I will be hosting with Dean Maris about the concept of software as a service is dead. SaaS is dead. So I have gone into the controversial state for the
Wow.
last, I don't know, year or so and said, folks, SaaS is dead. We need to adapt. We need to change the world. It's a new world. For business models. So we will be going into a discussion on that topic to see why and what does SaaS need to evolve into in the age of intelligence, in the age of AI. Also, my Thursday night office hours, y'all are invited to that. It's tomorrow night. Send me a DM and I can send you a link to that. I'm working on a workshop and I'd love to know if you guys are interested in it, going from idea to an application using AI assisted coding. I'm teaching that as a course at Cal Lutheran alongside Kelly Kimball, starting, I guess, in about a month. And I've been working on this for entirely too long, a post-labor economics live session discussion about the effects of artificial intelligence and automation. And Susan will be back at some point in the next month or so to talk about her results on her customer discovery and the results and learnings from that. Just as a little reminder, our code of conduct, if there's any conflicts of interest, please disclose and we'll discuss and decide what to do. For feedback, Francis Fry's 5-to-1 feedback ratio, 5 pieces of positive reinforcement to every 1 piece of constructive advice kind of works. All right, let me do some breakout rooms, and it's going to take me a second to do that. So I'm going to pause the recording and then I'll send everyone to breakout rooms. All right, folks should be coming back from the breakout rooms. All right. Welcome back from the breakout rooms. I hope everybody had lots of fun. Got to connect with some old and new friends. All right, let's continue. Just a little reminder, when no, never mind. You're not going to, we have a survey. You're not going to fill out the survey. I know you're not going to fill out the survey, so just ignore the survey. Thanks. But the recording tonight will be tonight's session will be recorded. We're going to post it on YouTube. And then after the recording, please do stick around for some overtime. And before I do my introduction, I would like to thank Kelly Kimball for his generous sponsorship of this group. Kelly, I love you. Thank you so much. We wouldn't be able to do these author series and a lot of the stuff without you. So thank you, Kelly. And again, if you stay till the end of Williamson's presentation tonight, I will be putting a link in the Zoom chat to a sign-up form where you can receive a free Kindle copy of Williamson's book. So please do stick around. Okay, it is now my honor to introduce tonight's speaker, our very own Williamson Brigido. Williamson is a polymath and a PhD student at Electronic Engineering and Informatics, focused on artificial intelligence at ITA. I'm not going to try and pronounce the university, apologies. One of Brazil's top engineering institutions, famous for an extremely competitive admissions process. Williamson brings a deep hands-on background across math, science, computing, and finance, with research and applied work spanning deep learning, risk management, multiple criteria decision-making, DevOps, distributed systems, dashboards, analytics tooling, cloud, and even some quantum computing research. He's also a longtime consultant and a project management advisor, an entrepreneur and inventor with patents, and above all, a teacher and mentor who loves sharing what he learns. And he tries to live by Carl Jung's reminder, know all the theories, master all the techniques, but as you touch a human soul, be just another human soul. I love it. And now, without further ado, as is our custom here at HBAP Startups, if we could all please briefly unmute ourselves so we can all provide a nice warm round of applause to Williamson Brigido. Williamson, thank you very much. I'm not sure
Thank
the
you.
applause are coming through, but...
Good night, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I'm pretty happy to be here. And thanks, Kelly, for your sponsorship. You are always available for us. You are amazing leader and is a very great guy and is an inspiration for us. So thank you, Todd, for your invitation. And I would like to say that I don't want you to see this as a class. It's more about a conversation, a talk. So please feel free to ask me, to take in a deep conversation. Don't be shy to ask me anything. There is no stupid question, just questions, okay? And I would like to reinforce that I'm here to help, to provide, to support. So if you have any questions after the presentation, it's a very short time. I cannot go deeper as I would like. So if you want to go there, or if you have another question, please feel free to send me an email. We can schedule some meetings to discuss in another day, in another time, when you are able, okay? So saying that, let's start. Let's see, where is my... are you able to see my screen?
We see your presenter slides, not the... There we go. Okay. Now we got it. Perfect. You're good.
So we were talking about the web of causality. The web is related to connections, right? That we can create connection between causal factors and see how we can change the event. We are studying one event and we would like to change this event, but not just change the event, but know which piece we need to move and which impact each piece will cause into the event that we are looking for. Todd made a great presentation, but I just would like to present a little bit more about me. This is who I am. So this is my children, Liam, Elena, and my wife, Desiree. So I'm very familiar guy. And the second characteristic that I think that I have, it's a very nerdy. I like to study, I like to read, I like to mix a lot of cross. I have MBA in project management. I have a master's degree in data science in Scotland and a master's degree in risk management here in Brazil. I'm finished my doctorate at ITA. It's the best institution created by MIT in 50 decades. So this is me there with Todd, with Kelly, everybody else. When I was there for Harvard ceremony, it was a very great time. This is me in Spain. I was talking to Peter. He lived there. I was invited to make a presentation for a neural network that I had created using reptile approach and applied for robotics. This is me at MIT, make some trainments. And this is Ben Warber, the guy who created the People Analytics. It was his thesis in 2009. I was able to get some great, insightful teaching from him in person. This is, he is William Oliver, the greatest name in quantum computing in the world at MIT Research Laboratory. This is a quantum computing. So as you see, I like to study, I like to learn, and I like to share what I learn, right? That's the reason that I'm here. So we are living in a big data era, right? And according to the Judea Pearl, we have tons and thousands of data, and this data is being processed by a lot of neural network and artificial intelligence. But what the neural network and what this machine learning approach is doing is just find the correlation, just find association, sometimes linear association, sometimes non-linear association, but even so, it's just association. Find pattern like image, voice, text. But the question is, let's see this image here and think about 1 minute, please. What do you see when you see this kind of thing? Imagine that you are a child now, and you are a child, you are just discovering the world, and when you see this, you say, okay, when I see a water coming down over the seed, something happens, right? And the child notices that every plant is water, the withering leaves appear revitalized. So what is this? This is the first causal reason that we have in our life. It's the first step in direction what is really causality. So during this period, during this phase, the child associates watering with improving the plant's appearance. That's it. It's just an observation. So we can see just an association. If the waters come, the seeds develop and evolve it to plants, right? We can see this as just seeing the act. But now, imagine that as a child, you decide, in other words, think about action. You want to interfere, you want to create an intervention in your act. Of course, we are just using this symbology here, but you can change for your business areas and it will work in the same way. During this time, when we were trying, we start to think about this. What will occur if I put this water here? So we take a step further than before, because now we are starting to make good questions about this. Okay, I can predict that the weather, that the plant will evolve. I can predict the size. I can predict everything, but I cannot say how can I change this scenario? How can I impact this scenario? So this moment, you take a step further and you ask, as a child, what would happen to the plant if it was never watered? When we get to this point, we are dealing with a real causality. Can you see? It's very different because now the causal reason, without direct testing, we can imagine, we can create scenarios in our mind and test. Oh, if I do this, what will you have? Develop theories, theorems, proofs, mathematical formulas. Every science came from this approach, from this causal reason. This is the last step of the ladder of causation, according to Judea Pearl, the leading in the world about this topic, right? So Pearl say that we have 3 steps: association, intervention, counterfactor. When we are here, remember, it's just kind of animal. The animal sees something happens and creates an association with that. It's something organic. There is no mental process behind this. When we take a step further, we start to do something, intervention. Okay, I have a disease. I have created a drug. Okay, I have tested the drug in 2 groups, the control and tested group. I know that who takes the drugs really makes better performance, better in health than who do not take the drugs. But the question is, what will happen if I change the posology of the drug? This is what causality is able to answer. So if you see some animals, they are going to the second step. Like here, it's not just an observation. The monkey is able now to see, oh, if I take this stick, I can put here and get more food. Look, at this moment, some animals are able to take the second step of the ladder of causation. So this moment, this kind of procedure is doing something more than usually we do. So my question is, what do you think that where is state of art of AI today? What do you think that ChatGPT is performing today here using this? Do you think that the ChatGPT is here, or here? The question is, the best neural network in the world, the best artificial intelligence in the world today is exactly here. And you can ask, I hope you ask this, well, wait, Johnny, if ChatGPT is here in association and we can do a lot of things using just association between words and positions of the words and grammar rules, this kind of thing, how would it be if the neural network was able to create intervention or thinking about counterfactual? That would be the Skynet. So we are very, very, very far away from this. So the majority of scientists today doesn't believe that it's possible to get Skynet. But just for you to have an idea, association is very powerful, but it's limited. You cannot do more than just observe, just predict, right? So this is the robot. We are statistics, machine learning, everything that we have learned in data science is here. So we are trying to take one area about the whole mathematics, the causality area, and try to use the evolution of mathematics to see real causality and how we can apply in our lives today, and how we can extract valuable explanation, and how we can make decision planning. If I can do counterfactual, think about this. If you will do a marketing campaign and you are able to do counterfactual, you can anticipate your result. You can anticipate your action. You do not need to go there to test, make A/B test, and after that, make a decision. You can anticipate that using tests that were tried before. So that's what we are trying to do here, right? So why causality is so important? It's a very fair question, right? Why is it better than simple association? Let's take an example here. If you do a prediction, you can say data say you will feel pain tomorrow, okay? But you cannot make intervention, you cannot test different scenarios with the same data. You can only say, oh, based on this data, you will feel pain tomorrow. That is the most that I can tell you, right? When you talk about intervention, you can create different kind of scenarios without have to create different kind of experimentations. Let's see. What do you see here? It's the percentage of days with good air quality. Can you see here? And here is the robbery rate per 100,000 residents in USA. Please take a look here. This is a correlation. The data is very correlated, right? There is a very great association, linear association between, it's not so great, it's kind of 56, but it's a kind of correlation. But using just this correlation, just this association, can you say that a good air quality will create robbery? Doesn't make sense, right? So if you take this data and put in machine learning, the machine learning will predict very well, but you are using a data that it's fake. You cannot assume this kind of reason. Take another example. This is the amount of solar power generated in Morocco in billions of kilowatts hour. And this is, look, relative volume of Google research for sushi near me. Can you see? But take a look here. It's very correlated, 95. It's a very, very correlated data. But let me ask you something. Just using this kind of association, if I train a neural network and let the neural network or machine learn anything, discover how to deal with this data, of course, the neural network will find a correlation, will find association, will create a role, but this role is real, doesn't make sense in real life, in real world. That's why, another example that I like to teach my students, usually if you see the research about the world, you will see that the family that has more TV live longer. And you see why. Well, and let's think about contrafactor. I will ask a question. If I buy more TV, I will be able to live more? That's what can you see? Cause that's what we say, correlation does not equal a causation, because we have different explanation for that. One hypothesis is, if your family owns more TV, it means that you have a better financial life. If you have a better financial conditions, your quality of life will be better, so you will live longer. So that's what we are trying to discover, to use when we are using causality. We are trying to make this kind of question: what will happen if I do this? What? And we can create a lot of questions and answer these questions using mathematics. I will try to avoid great formulas. I will try to make it simple, because I don't want to teach you how to calculate this. I just like to give you the tools and how to use the tools and apply in your life to get causality. So if you see aircraft accidents, they say that each piece to create a chain must be united. That's the power of causality. If you just break one chain, just one of them, the chain will collapse. So that's the power of causality. If I discover a causal relationship, if I change the causal factor, the event, the consequence will change immediately. That's the power of causality. Look, if I using umbrella and it's raining, I cannot affirm that if I use more umbrella, will rain more. But there is a spurious correlation, because when it rains, the people usually use umbrellas. So my approach here is, think about a web, a net. Each thread is a factor, a causal factor that can impact your target, your deal, your business area. So let's take a real example here. If I am trying to see the profit and create a causal measure here, I am able to see that 73%, I have changed it to percentage to make it clear for you, right? So I can see that what is the real impact of ad spend over the profit. It's a small. So in this case, if you are spending a lot of money here, we can say that the organic movement will sell more than this. So does not, you need to see, okay, does it work for you, this kind of result? Is part of your strategy, or you are using the AdSense as a different strategy, not to get profit? That's what causality gives you the power to calculate. We can create the factor here, and you can see that there is no impact for ad spend here, but you can see a lot of impact for organic sales, right? So the causal model mechanism, think about this. When you are using this, when you apply what we will talk today in your real life, you will create the process that generates your data. Look, it's different. You are not trying to fit the neural network to your data. You are trying to discover what generates your data. And if you discover this, you can work, because in the moment that you learn about the data generation process, you can also explore different scenarios. You can make different approach, change the values, and see what will happen when you do this kind of thing. That's what is causality. That's how I suggest you to apply in your life. In everything you can apply this. So to be able to have just a basic context, as I was talking to Gary, how humanity came where we are today, right? We are in the toppest of mathematical learning for causality in the world, but it's very recent, the developing. It's coordinated by Pew since 80 decades. So the fates were typically represented as three sisters, right? They were daughters of the goddess Nyx, and their authority was absolute. That is, not even the Olympic god like Zeus could alter the decrees of the fates. So here, the humanity start to make an observation, or we are starting to thinking about causality. I cannot change my fate. There was a causal there, and I couldn't change that. Many years later, you can see the Buddhism, when Nagarjuna, the great Indian philosopher, thought about phenomena, and based on Buddhism and Buddha statements, phenomena arise only from dependence of causes and condition. If you do not have causes or condition, or if you change the causes or condition, the phenomena will arise differently or will not arise anymore. So the question is, what have generated that? If you look for, you will discover what is. So many years later, we started with David Hume. Hume was able to create a conjunction, what we use still today. A follows B. We create a arrow signalizing that we are create a relationship in a causal way from B to A, right? John Stuart Mill created what we have used today as different prose, because he proposed, he proposed the method of agreement of different domains, but lacked the mathematical language for complex. It was more philosophical than practical, right? Here, we are able to see Fisher. Fisher created the randomization, is the father of modern statistics, p-value, t-test, everything comes from Fisher. Fisher was a geometer, so he was thinking about geometry, using geometry formulas to calculate this. It was more related to correlation, to association than causal, but really, Robin was able to create what we call average treatment effect. He was created different scenarios and say, wow, what will happen to the control group if I applied this drug? This kind of question was formulated here, but there was no formula, was no application for that. It would take 30 years more to get where we are today. So we started with path coefficient using PLS, structural equation, to create a relationship, this score. But as Peter was saying, there is no such explanation for that. I can see this, Gary. Gary was saying, I can see the correlation, I can see the score, but I cannot explain why this is happening. So Granger created what is called causality test, Granger test, but it was just another kind of association. Granger was worried about X causes Y, but for X be able to cause Y, X must occur before Y. So Granger has created an idea that I cannot have a cause factor after the consequence. So the cause comes before the consequence. There was a kind of a procedure that was using, and I still using today. I will show you a case that we have solved in market digital class at Harvard that were using this kind of approach. It's still used today, right? And the modern structure model created by Judia and another research, but I like Judia because he's very, very powerful in his book, and his lectures, everything else. So this is where we are today, the ladder of causation, as I talked before. And now let's see how we can use causality. Let's see, Johnny. Now show me, how can I measure causality? We will use the do-while package from Python. It's a public and open source code. You can just download it to your machine and use without pay anything. It's very easy. And why I'm using the do-while is because it's very short, in just 18 lines. If you memorize the 18 lines that I will show you now, you can measure anything. Of course, you will change the variable names, but the template will be always the same. This makes our lives easier, because when you are using different approach, you need to memorize these, you need to change, you need to make some data engineer to be able to get what we do. So you have a lot of work to get the same point. Here, you will always use the same template. So it's easy to memorize, it's easy to apply, it's easy to interpret, it's easy to extract values. That's why we are using do-while. That's why I pick up this option in my book, okay? So do-while has 4 pillars. We have the model, where you just create the graph model. This variable calls this variable calls this variable calls this. We identify the effects that we want to create, if it's a backdoor or front door. We estimate the real causal effect, and that's where I like. We refute. The refute process is where you put rigor in your analysis. When you do this kind of refute, you are giving, you are trying to put a lot of rigor and say, oh, this is not get by chance. There is a very powerful discovery here. I cannot refute this using different approach. I cannot replicate this using different approach. So it's probably the causality. So this is the tool that only exists in do-while. That's why I am sharing with you now. If you take my book, I explain each one of these pillars. I go deeply in any details, every details. I will explain it and give you an example step by step. So don't worry about this. The time is short, and I would like to show you in real life the hands-on experience. So here we can compare the do-while with traditional statistics used in data science school. So assumptions here is implicit. You do not make very explicit things about conditions and what is the causal and what is the effect. Here in do-while, it's explicit. You make everything explicit to your user, to your stakeholders. You make everything explicit. Everyone can see everything that you are working. There is no implicit or hidden variables there. So it's easy to interpret it. Prediction, you can predict, of course, using traditional statistics. You can use ChatGPT for a lot of things, but there is no refutation mode. You cannot validate this model with rigor. You need to think about with 95% of confidence, but what is the confidence? You know, it's not enough to take a causality. We need something more than just 95 of confidence that I will get my target. We need something more. So role of human here, you are very passive because you just wait for the machine learning to find some pattern. Here, you honor the model, because here you are not just creating the causal, but you are thinking about counterfactual in an intervention. You are thinking about how to use this. You can make more questions and assumptions than just using this formula here, right? So today, my deal is to show you the template when you can memorize, take a screenshot and use in your daily life, and just change the name of variables, and you will get everything in your computer, simple like that, and you can interpret it and make some tests and improvement in any area that you are working with, marketing, health, anything. You will use the same strategy, the same formula, okay? So let's think about this. I will use this in a notebook, but I would like to think about this. There is a correlation between ice cream sales and drawing death. So if you create a just linear regression, you will be able to predict drawing death just using the ice cream sales. Remember, spurious correlation. But when you are using the causality, you can anticipate, okay, let's think. It's not just the ice cream that is causing the death. There is something in common to ice creams and drownings. And we can imagine that the heat, when the heat is higher than the normal, you will sell more ice creams, and the people will feel more wish to go to a pool or to a lake, and of course the drawing death will occur. So that what I will demonstrate using Python now. I will change the can you see my screen? I will have to share my whole screen, okay, Todd?
Yeah.
To make easier.
Whatever's easy for you. This is awesome, Williamson. I'm loving this.
So here, this is Perfect. The template, do I will explain every detail here. I will try to make it easy. Okay. Can you see here? You just import do I and import causal model from do I. If you want to take a screenshot of this, you can. And you just need to change the name of variables and apply in your real data set, and you get the same answer about your business, of course, based on your data, okay? But what I mean is, you don't need to memorize a lot of things to make causality. You just need to memorize these 18 lines here. Here, I'm creating a causal model, and I say, this is my data frame. I'm seeing that the treatment, what is the treatment? The variable that I will create an intervention. Remember about the drug? I create a drug that combats cancer. I will put here who, the column that makes who received the drugs and who didn't receive the drugs, 0 and 1, okay? The outcome is what I want to understand, the health, right? The resolution of cancer. This is the drug. Just an example for you to have an idea. The common cause is the contrafactors. Okay, I have a lot of data, but how many effects comes from another variable? Because you have, sometimes there is another explanation for your business or for your area, for your disease, that it's not just the drug. Sometimes it's the age, sometimes it's the gender of that person that make the drugs works. And when you put here the other causal common factor, the app will be able to compare and say, okay, I have compared the age, I have used the gender, I have used the profit, the height, the weight, everything that the person has. And of course, I can guarantee you the reason for this person be cured is because of the treatment. This was the cause of this. So here we are just make explicit about this. Instrument is the variable that change your data, but do not get real causality. I won't be able to explain instrument here. We don't have time for that, but in my book, I go deeply in that. You are able to read and test. And again, feel free to ask me. We can schedule a meeting after that and we can talk about it. Here, you can see the model. You will see a graph showing you the model that you have created. Here, you identify your effect, right? Here, you estimate this is where you really estimate the causal effect here. We are using the backdoor strategy and linear regression. We are trying to take linear correlation, but we have different strategy here. You can use the scikit learning here. Everything that from scikit works here, but you need a little bit of adaptation. In my books, you have all of these. You can go deep there. And here is where the do I shines. You make the refutation. Here you test with rigor. You are not just, okay, there is a causal. No, I can guarantee you with rigor, mathematical rigor, that this is happening. So let's take an example here. I just created a fake data, and just to create, I want to measure if organic clicks or social clicks is working in my revenue, right? So here is just the data frame with the data, just for demonstration, okay? This is another form to use. You can say, okay, use a graph. You can take a screenshot here and say, this causes this causes this, and so on. Here I create all the model, all the correlation of the causation that I want to measure. Here I define the variables as you saw before. Here I can see the model. Can you see? Every time the same lines will appear here. So if you memorize the 18 lines, you can measure anything. If I go to interview for data science, you know these 18 lines, you can measure causality in your interview. So here I will show you the result. This is the model. I'm measuring the demand effect, causal effect over organic clicks, the causal effect over the revenue, the causal effect over the social spend, the causal impact to TV spend, and the causal impact to social click. And here I can see how everything is related to revenue. So in the moments that I measure this is the output that I will give to you. In my books, I explain each line of this in a very good detail, in a very simple way, removing all the mathematics behind it. Anyone can understand and apply this. It's very simple. You don't need to be a great mathematician to understand this. But this is just explicit. You are using everything here, and you are assuming that if there is no other counterfactual here, your model will be true. So I can estimate that the effect of the TV spend over the revenue is this impact here. This is the value that you will have. Imagine that you are using dollars. This would be 50 cents dollar. If I using temperature, this will replicate your measure, right? So you have different units, but the unit here is the same one that is present in your data set. So you don't need to transform it, like you are not using standard deviation that you need to change something like variance. Variance, it is a standard deviation square. This creates a kind of confusion for students, especially beginners. So when you are using this, you are using the same unit measure. You don't need to transform or to convert in anything else. And here's the refutation with p-value very high, saying that the test is very true. There is a real causality here. Okay, I discovered that there is a real causality between TV spend over the revenue. Now, John, okay, I can use machine learning, I can use neural network, anything that can create this. I can take this, okay. But now we take the next step as let's do intervention. Let's try to use counterfactual. If I know the causal effect, I can make such a question. Given this context, the same demand, how much would be expected revenue change if I increased TV spend by 30%? Look, this is the moments that you can do only using causality. You cannot make such inference using different approaches, you know? So I just use the beta here. This is the same beta that I discovered here, and plus 30% more. So I can see the revenue difference will be exactly this, 1.25% more. So if you create a graph here, you will be able to see that's more or less 2 and 29, like this one, 2 and 29. If you see here, the average is over here, more or less, right? So we can, just in the moment that I have the causal model here, I can make different questions, run again. Or if I reduce by 30%, and if I just put here, I can have, oh, sorry, the computer is off. I didn't run. So, you just run here again, you will see the output here. So I can change the data and make different questions. At the same time, I will have all the answers that I want to have. Simple like that, right? And here, using the ice screen and drawing, I create a table here. You can see that the ice screen is correlated to drawing, right? In a moderate way, 42. And I will use this data here to create a causality model. Here, I am using the naive way, that using the traditional linear regression. If you use the traditional linear regression, you'll be able to see that ice screens indeed cause the drownings. So I see that this is, of course, I'm doing with a logic data. Logically speaking, it's not possible, right? The ice cream cause drawings. But I know this. Sometimes you are working with data that you cannot make such assumption. Think about you are working with genes. You don't know exactly what each genes cause. That's why you are there. You are trying to make a research to discover what these genes will make in your body if I make some change there. So you don't know. So it's very dangerous, because here we already know that it's a spurious correlation, but sometimes you don't know. But when I use the same graph saying the temperature causes ice cream, the temperature causes drownings, I can say the model here, and I can see the model 0. There is no causal relationship between drownings and ice cream, or ice cream and drownings. Remember, you can adapt the linear regression, of course. You can see this in my book. I'm resuming that, right? You can make changes here to get exactly this. But remember, you need to change the code. You need to do a lot of test, data engineer. Here, you always use the same template. So your life will be easier to interpret, to apply. You just need to change the name of the variables. You will get the output there. So if you memorize this today, tomorrow you are able to measure causality. Simple like that. That's what is amazing, in my opinion, right? I would like to share another thing with you. This is a real case that we have used at Harvard. Can you see? Professor Aielli shared with us a data from marketing. And the question of this data was asking is, what channel has the best lift conversion rate? So if you are a data scientist in your company and you would like to see which channel is the better one to invest, you need to do everything that you can see here. Now, I have tested 2 times when I present this to professor using the Bayesian approach and the frequencies approach. Look, there is a lot of code. Can you see? Just to get this data here. What?
Are you talking about Israeli? I'll ask Israeli.
Yes.
Okay, great. I loved her. Yeah.
So Google has negative. So Google doesn't help but create obstacle for you. Google is the terrible one about this data here, okay? When we use this data, Google was not good to use, so we need to avoid this. Now we will do the same strategy that I have used here using DUI. And here you will see the same thing, okay? Let's see the lines here. The causal model, remember? The graph, the effect identification. I'm using logistic regression because we need the probability of conversion. So I was using the logit numbers to get there. I made the refutation here. You can see the refutation. And the output is here. So when you see here, look, the same thing that we are able to see here. Look, minus 62.7. Here, you got minus the same thing, but look how many lines of code I have saved. How simple is that? And create the same output with the same confidence that we have used in our classroom. So here we can see that the coupon should not be concentrated on referral or other, and sparingly on Facebook, almost unnecessary on Instagram, and avoided on Google based on this one, where it destroys conversion instead of creating them. So just with 18 lines of code, we were able to take all the data from Professor Israel in digital market class and create the output in seconds, just using the same lines. Here, it's a paper. I will try to, this is the real paper here. You can see the paper. I took the real data here. This data is looking for this kind of research here. And if you see the discover from the paper is this one. In other words, the risk difference is minus 14.5%. So it's very, very effective. We will do the same analysis using DOI. I downloaded the data from the paper. I just treated everything. Data engineer created data frame, everything just to make the data available to measure. Here you can see again the model treatment cause the outcome. In other words, if I take the drug, I will take the output that I am expecting. This is what I'm trying to answer. Remember the same line again, identify the effect, estimate the effect, the same line, and the refutations here. The refutation. What I can see here, you can see explicit, as I told you, everything here is very explicit. You can see here that everything is very explicit. You can see in a written form or in a visual mode. You can see what is the possible causes for the outcome. We are studying the age, the gender, the treatment, everything that could impact the outcome. Sometimes it's not exactly the drug, but how can I discover this? I collect all the data, put here, and the causal model will be here. If you see exactly the same value found in the paper, but with just 18 lines of code. That is the magic. That is how easy it is. And as again, just create a screenshot here and apply in your real data, and you will be able to interpret and understand everything that you want to like. Everything else is in my book, and I'm open now to thank you for your attention. Sorry, Todd, if I explode the time.
No, you're doing great. This is amazing.
I'm just available for you for any question. Sorry if I couldn't go deeply, but to be able to go deeply, I would require more time that we have, but we can talk later in a different moments, or you can go deeply using my book. So feel free to ask me anything. Thank you.
Williamson, thank you very much for coming and presenting your work here. All right, I'm putting the form into the Zoom chat, so please do sign up for this, and we will get you a Kindle copy of Williamson's book. Thank you, Kelly. So Williamson, I've got questions for you about, how have you looked into any of the large language models and any of the research with causality and the latest stuff on that? And what are your thoughts on there? Because I could talk for hours about this.
We are trying, we have a lot of research about this, trying to use neural network to capture causality, but we are still using the association approach, right? The neural network is not creating intervention automatically. they are just doing what we have to. So if I give you a data set, doing this, you get this, you find association, right? So that's basically this what is happening today. It's very, when you see some lectures from Judy Appel, he doesn't believe that it's possible in this generation for neural network to get causalities. We are very, very, very far away from there. But we are trying, right? Science sometimes surprises us. But I don't believe that in the next 10 years we will be able to do it. But of course, we can create a neural network to measure causality, as do I. But the neural network is just applying the formula. It's not making the intervention, the counterfactor, the questions that as a human, you can do, right?
Well, not exactly. So, like, there's a bunch of new techniques and new LLMs that are, in fact, able to show the beginning stages of causality and the understanding, and actually, I would say the interpretation of A hitting B. Like world models is the first thing that comes to mind, like because they're basically like game simulations. CARE, that's a new model that came out of Duke. There's the hierarchical reasoning models. There's the recursive language models. Actually, that's fantastic. The RLMs, which is a paper from December out of MIT, they're literally decomposing the context window in a Python REPL, which is just like, okay, they're basically spinning up a Python environment to decompose the context window. So if there's causality in the context window, and I got to tell you, I'm brand new to DoY. There goes my weekend. Uh, uh, but I'm wondering if one could, as part of the prompt, or even some fine tuning, on a later model, like, hey, here's the concept of DoY, spin up your deterministic Python environment, which is what we're doing. That's the other thing, Williamson.
Yeah.
We're doing tons of that. AI, write the code, run the code, interpret the response.
But remember, the DoY still rely on researcher. You still need to define the model. You still need to define the counterfactor.
Yes.
If you do not define,
yes,
you won't be able to do this automatically. You know what I mean?
But
it still depends on the person, on the human reasoning. Without the human reason, the DoY will not do it automatically for you, Yes, you can use some data discovery, causal discovery exists. There is a chapter in my book for causal discovery, but it's very, I would, if you are applying rigor, it's important to say with rigor, we cannot say that it's very reliable. I still rely on human beings. So if you define the model, I will rely. But if you are using the discovery process, you can discover something that it's doesn't make sense, But when you define your model, the DoY will be able to calculate that for you. So it relies
now, I think you're going to
100% on
start to
research.
see. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna make a prediction, which is always dangerous because all predictions are wrong when it comes to AI. That I think that these new techniques, these new reinforcement learning, with the verifiable rewards, the RLVF, what's it, RLF? Yeah, I forget, and the structural causal models. Like these are LLMs that have been fine-tuned or completely trained from scratch, so they're base models that actually do have the ability to understand this causality. Now, is it as good as a human? Absolutely not. I'm not claiming that at all. But what I am claiming is we're getting to the stage, and this is one of the areas of active research. The stuff that Jan LeCun working on, the VJEPA stuff. These things they have causal and causality inside of them. I think it's just a matter of the proper structure, the proper harness that is going to extract it. I can't comment on you still need the human to create the model, the DoY model. That makes a little bit of sense to me because you have to ask what we're looking for. I don't know. I feel like somebody could solve that really quickly. I think you could solve this.
But does it
Go ahead,
help
Gary? Sorry.
Does it help with explainability? Because there's so many deep things behind what Williams does. And the reason behind all the research. and he comes up with a solution, and he can explain it because of his research. So I don't know, like, and I'm going towards ethics, but not really there. But
Yeah.
I just think with what William just presented and all the research he's done, I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like I can explain AI better because I've been through what I just learned.
Hmm. Thank you, Gary. Nima, you got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, so William, thank you for that. It was fantastic. I actually wanted to maybe key off something that Todd mentioned, double clicking on these RLVRs, like reinforcement learning from verified rewards.
That's
Um,
it. W.
and I wonder if that changes your, because you had a slide where you were like, you kind of showed the sort of causality ladder, and that LLMs were doing correlation. I wonder what you think about our LVR potentially changing that. And I'll maybe walk backwards from the results we've seen. So the big results right now with LLMs has been in coding agents and math proofs. And these are both areas where RLVR is really strong, because if you code something up, you can run it and you can see the outcome. So you can basically close the loop. You can do an intervention meaning I run my code, and then the outcome is I see it execute. You put that in your in kind of your trading, and that's your reward function. Same with math proofs. You have lean. You have basically constructive logic. You can write your proof. You can see if it checks out, and then that's your reward. Do you think that changes the equation in terms of like whether the models, because fundamentally the transformer is kind of a statistical machine, but then the meta level you put RLVR, are you at that point training a causal model, and do you think that explains why these models have been so much more successful in these areas where RLVR is possible?
Well, Nima, it's amazing question. Thank you for that. It's amazing point, and thank you for sharing with us. I think it's very difficult for me to answer this because as Todd has said, every model, every prediction, or every idea has an error, right? It's just a limited point of view. But in my view, using the pure approach, what counterfactual, not just intervention, but doing the next step of the counterfactual to try different scenarios. I don't think that it would be possible with reinforcement learning, at least where I know. I will read more about it. I would take notes, and I pretend to read more about what Todd has said and you. But in my view, yeah. But it's very difficult for me to answer this. I don't have a honest answer for you now, but I don't believe that it's real counterfactual. Intervention, I agree, we can replicate, but counterfactual, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But you are right. I believe that is a very good explanation for that, is
But
what you have posted.
I also think that once you've, because I understand the concept of the instruments, and you're defining that outcome. I think that these models could at least wrap that and with a hypothesis. I think this might be the input and the output, and this is the causal or counterfactual. Run the do-I, in some, and then, oh, look at, that's the result. No, that's wrong. Or, oh wait, that's all automatable. So, and
Yeah,
then it's the interpretation. It's the human, the researcher, like, you know, AI, you're completely wrong, or AI, oh, take my job. Just let me
yeah.
Yeah,
take my job, man. I'm done.
yeah. Todd and Williamson. I'm just asking, how long is the life of a model you make, and is it just you come up with one and then you use it and then you replace it? Like, how is it weeks, days? I don't know.
Like, are you talking about like the stuff that like OpenAI is training, and Quen, and
Oh,
Google, like
whatever.
those large language
Yeah,
models? they have a lifespan of what, a few months at this point.
Right.
So they're spending millions of
Right.
dollars to release a model that they are competing with a global. I don't know if that's the question you're asked. You're asked.
Yeah, I mean, or the ones you rely on, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
I think they're constantly training new models. There's a massive race. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the
but
length, the value of it is
yeah.
shrinking.
And there's another question, Todd. We are not talking about instruments. We are not talking about mediators here. We are not talking about heterogeneity here, that you have to change the approach in do I approach this in my book, but here I didn't approach. So there is a lot of more to do with just put the data there and train the neural network, So when we put everything this together, it's still human reliable, because as a human, you can think about it. But I'm not sure if the neural network can anticipate that, unless that it's trained to do. But if you train it to do in this situation, will you be able to replicate to another situation? That's the point of contrafactor, You can train in A situation, but in B, C, D, sometimes it's not possible to replicate.
Yeah. So wait, I have a question for you. Do you think AI needs to be between a lawyer and a client, a medical person and a doctor, like all these personal situations? Like, where should AI fit to help and not just provide service? And service is good. Service is good for places that don't have access to. So there's reasons to have it, but I don't know. It's just a weird thing to think about.
Yeah. For medicine, when you think about the medicine, the medical approach, the good approach to use AI is a support, but you still rely on the medical doctor to make a final decision. The AI can provide you with suggestions, with idea, but the causality, the contrafactor is still relying on the person. And there is a lot of errors here in Brazil. We had a change in ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not giving judicial counsels anymore because it created some issues, because, the law say this, but the judge interpret in a different approach. So when you put in a human, it's not the letter of law. You cannot interpret it literally. You need to make some interpretation there. So the AI is
medical prescribing drugs.
Yeah, I have a case here. My colleague, one of my best colleagues here in Brazil, he's a professor in the best medical schools here in Brazil. He made 5 tests last week for medication, for dangerous medication, and the AI just failed in every of the 5 tests. It would be able to give the real recommendation, and that was very, very, in my opinion, if the doctor is not trained to think about what AI is giving, if the doctor is just following the order, the post directly without question, without reasoning, this is dangerous for the patient. Very, very dangerous. And my friend will publish a paper about this, and he's trying to prohibit the medical to access ChatGPT because it can influence the doctor opinion in some way in a wrong direction. So I think it's a very dangerous place to put the AI now. That's the reason. There is no contrafactor there, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just interrupt real quick. Sorry, Gary. I just want to say thank you to Kelly. You got to go.
Yeah. But I appreciated the conversation tonight because it needed to be done, and it's real. It's real about what the way AI has evolved, I guess, and the research behind it. and I just, oh my God, big hugs, because I just love
Well,
it.
I mean, if Williamson hadn't written a book on causality, it wouldn't have caused all of us to show up tonight.
Right.
So I'll be quiet now. All right, I've got a couple more questions. Victor, and then we'll go to Maurice. Thank you, Gary.
Yes,
Yep.
thank you, Williamson, so much. This is fascinating stuff. I have two questions that I'll try to ask. I'm not sure if I'll succeed. The first one, refute versus counterfactual. What I understood was that the counterfactual is a refute mechanism. Is that a correct understanding?
Um, Depending, in some cases, I think you are right, but it is not in all cases. Sometimes you do not want to refill, you just want to change the approach and see what happens.
Mm,
Do something that you didn't try before, something new,
yes.
something.
So, so counterfactual may be one of several possible tools that could be used in the refute.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
I
exactly.
think I understand that. The second one is trickier, causal discovery. I really don't have much knowledge in this subject matter, and at the same time, I'm thinking in the abstract. Um, if you if you look at the ice cream example, we have prior knowledge, right? So we can all conjecture about causality between ice cream and drownings, right? One might be you're not supposed to swim for half an hour after you eat, and that might be causal. The other one is the one that you showed about the tendency with the sun and heat causing both activities and therefore increasing the probability or even of drownings simultaneous with the probability of ice cream sales, right? But what I'm getting to is that's stuff that we know in our life experiences that we can rationalize. But if I go to the abstract of the power, the true power of AI showing humans what they can't see with their own eye, right? And I swing that concept over to causal discovery. Does it make sense to pursue I'll say the perspective. I don't know about the tools, but the perspective that making an inquiry of causality to an AI, whatever the appropriate model is, to say, what's the possible causality, cause of car accidents during the rush hour on this highway? And let it be an exploration, right? So assuming that it can do this, it can see all the possibilities of, and I'll say reasoning. I mean, that's a stretch, but reasonable causes for accidents, right? And then the next step would be to ask it to explain how it made those causal inferences, right?
Yeah.
Is that a plausible way to understand the potential of AI in causal discovery that we can now use as a, reaching into the universal corpus of data to pull out things that we wouldn't otherwise know from our experience or see from a limited, a narrowly defined model that may pre-exist and can do some causality, but not all. So are we headed in that direction where the AI writ large can give us its I'm not I don't want to use too many human words at this stage, right? Its discovery of potential causality, and by giving us all those things that we may not understand at first blush, but we can ask for the explanation. Now we're seeing things that we couldn't see, and I guess what I'm wondering is and sorry for stretching that question per se, but is that thought process a reasonable way to move forward with causal discovery?
That's a very hard question. I'm not the owner of the truth, right? So I'm just thinking about with you together, and
Mm.
I receive every opinion here is welcome for me. I'm just sharing my experience. In my experience, when you say exploration, exploring, discovering, I think you can use exact exploration possibilities. But you are right. Sometimes you can find something that doesn't make sense for us. So what will be the end if you discover something that doesn't make sense? You are still struggling with explanation, right?
Mhm.
So for exploration, okay, the causal discovery, I think you can use, but when you are dealing with a real business, I don't recommend you to use discovering, because you are dealing with a real data, with some real thing happening there,
Mhm.
and you cannot rely on this, at least now, at least what I know, right? I'm not the I don't know everything in the world, but what I know, it's not possible to discover something that you cannot infer. So I still rely on the research view. It's important this, when you use causal discovery, causal modeling, it's important for you to have a very clear idea about the variables and how do you
Okay.
think that they can relationship between them, how they can relate to each other, how they can act against or favor to each other. It's very important this. But in some way that you are very blind and you just want to make exploration, and after that trying to see if it makes sense or not, okay, but remember, it's an exploration. You cannot use
Yes.
as
Yes.
evidence with rigor, uh, every time that I talk something, I try to put rigor, because it's very important to think about rigor. And
Mhm.
when you put rigor, it's very difficult to get causality. It's very, very difficult.
Yes, and
It's very,
that
yeah,
grounds.
it's very difficult to find instrument variable. It's very difficult to find this kind of thing. So we know that it exists, but it's very difficult. So that's why I always teach to use what you know in your business. But
Mhm.
if you already know, you say, okay, let's see if I can, okay, there is a causal relationship discovered here by the algorithm. Okay, I will make some research to think if this makes sense. But you are still lacking explainability, right? In some way.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, and that grounds my understanding of your presentation tonight. So thank you for that. And I just want to say we could take a conversation offline or continue it in overtime. But part of my thinking about causal discovery had to do with the word innovation. If you're looking for a causal relationship in something that we don't readily see as a starting point for innovating solutions around that causality, was kind of where I was headed with it. But that's probably going to put this conversation off the rails. So,
Yeah.
I'll pose that and maybe we can talk further.
Yeah, Victor, you have a very great prompt. Just let me show something. Google has training a neural network for research papers. But this paper can discover, if you put a research literature review there, this paper can find a relationship between the papers and create hypotheses that can be true based on this training. So it's
Hmm.
more or less what you are talking about. But remember, Google has created specifically for this. You cannot
Yes,
extrapolate
yes.
for other things. It's still limited to that, right?
Hmm. All right, Williamson, thanks so much for indulging my questions. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Victor. All right, we'll go to Maurice and then we'll go to Adolfo and then we'll end the recording and we can stick around for some overtime. Gary will come to you afterwards. Maurice.
Yeah.
So hi, Williamson. Thank you so much for the presentation. That was amazing. But I wanted to go back to something that Todd was talking about, right? So when we look at something like when you look at Claude from Anthropic, right? So they do have like a coworker today. And with this coworker, you can actually assign it a bunch of skills. So assuming that, let's say Williamson, not Maurice, is actually using the Anthropic coworker and assigning the appropriate skills that can actually trigger DOI to try and do the specific research that you want to do, right? Because I think a lot of the same way as Google has done the research, OpenAI has done the research as well. So if you go in ChatGPT and then you do /, you will see the research piece, and then you can actually instruct it. So give it specific information as a researcher, because as we use these tools, there are people who already have, like yourself, Williamson, you have the knowledge, the research on understanding what you want to actually get out of a particular model. And given that today, if your book is published and your book is going to be probably trained on the Transformers model in the next month or two, possibly because it's looking at anything new that comes online. And is there not a possibility to say, hey, I think there could be a way you can set up a coworker that will be like a co-researcher that can actually try to do this and have AI not only put out the outcome, but also try to explain the causality, if that's the case. And if we look at the different situation, let's say situation A, B, we know for sure that whether they are correlated, but that would have nothing to do with causality. But I think the way AI is going and at a speed where models are being put out there, I think there's a possibility that some of the models can actually automate stuff, and especially the coworker scale one in Anthropic that just came out, I think, a couple of weeks ago or a week ago. So that was just my thoughts. I just want to share that.
Thank you, Maurice. Very good thoughts. Thank you for sharing with us, and welcome. And please feel free to call me in any way, in any moment that you need. I agree with you. Possible. I think it is possible, right? But I don't have any situation in my mind that I could create an Anthropic coworker that can do something like that, at least now. But I can make some exercise after our meeting to discover if I can imagine a situation that this could happen. But I don't want to restrict this. I would like to give an ideas. We have this kind of restriction, but it can be, you can have a solution for that. Sometimes you can say, Johnny, I don't have the knowledge, the technical knowledge for that, but this is no important. You can create a patent for your idea. And after that, you find a developer or a data science that can make your idea tangible for the world. But I think it's important for us to think about it, of course, because we are here to discover new things. But when you say that the coworker can discover something, I am still thinking about association. Based on the trained data, it finds some associations between this, and probably like Google, this paper has an association with that. They are talking about the same topics. This paper looked to the right, this one looked to the left. Maybe there is something between us. Let's try. It's just a hypothesis, right? But it's still association. And again, association is not bad, right? ChatGPT is incredible. DeepSeek is incredible. Association is very, very powerful. What we want to do is not abandon the association. We want to take a step further to make some questions, something more, a little bit more. Sometimes it's not much more, but it's a little bit more that can, with causality, we can do it. Without causality, it's not possible. With rigor, okay? Sometimes it's possible, but when you apply the rigor, it fails. The metric doesn't prove mathematically that it's what we are trying to do, right? Thank you, Mauricio. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Maurice.
you.
Adolfo, you got the last question. We'll end the recording and stick around for some overtime. Adolfo.
Thanks, Todd, and thanks, William. Some fantastic topic, and for me, extremely well timed. Um, in the days to come, we're going to start an exercise on defining hypotheses and experiments for an early startup. The challenge we have, as you probably imagine, is we don't have the data and we'll have to guess the causal graph. So can you talk about how this framework could help us guide us through the thought process in a way that we retain that rigor and do not dilute ourselves? And I wonder if you have any thoughts on that, how this could be a good set of guide rails to move forward.
Well, let me think about a little bit. It's a very good question. Everyone here, it's a very interesting question. I like it, but I didn't think this before. Let me see. You want to anticipate your experience without data. I think that when you are thinking about causality, the first thing is you need a model, a path in your mind. You need at least a direction, where you are today and where you want to be tomorrow. So you can create in your mind this path and say, maybe I can do this, I could do this, in brainstorm way, okay? Without validation, just brainstorming, put everything in a post-it, and after that, see what makes sense or not, and how can you get the measure for that or not. I think that's the only way that you can use in your situation, because you don't have the data, but you have an idea what you want to do. So your experiment must mirror your idea, right? So I think that you define the model, the right model is the most important thing that you need now to do. Everything else will be easier after this. And if you want some help, we can make some brainstorm together. You can talk to me in another session, and we can do it together, and you can test if it works or not. I would like to test with you. It's a very challenging thing. I never did this before, but I think it's the only thing that I can imagine, at least now, is this. Have a very good, clear idea what you want to do, your path, the way that you want to go. And now you will see, okay, if I want to measure this, which kind of indicator I need to capture to get this? That's the next step. How can I measure this, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm not sure if I was able to answer your question, but I feel it's very difficult because without data, honestly speaking, there is nothing to do, right? But this word is a tricky word because it's not exactly nothing. You have an idea what you have to do to get this data in future, because you know how you measure, what kind of data you will need to be able to calculate that. So this can help you in the right direction. But beside that, I don't see any other forms to use this. Like
what I'm paraphrasing what I'm hearing from you, Williamson, is that the framework can help you state hypotheses about the causal graphs, right? You may not know what the causal graph is, but you can state a possible or multiple iterations, I guess. And then hopefully I'm hoping that can help you uncover what data points you'll need, what signals you need to actually validate. But before we leave today, absolutely, I would like to stay in touch with you and we can discuss the scenario better. But great conversation, appreciate it. Looking forward to look at the book.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adolfo. All right, Gary, your hand's up. Can you do it quick and then we'll end it?
Yeah,
All right, good. Go for it.
Very quick. I just appreciate being here for Williamson. Oh my God. Everything he's told me, said, done. I can't, I'm so excited that this is the direction I want to look at in a good way. I knew it was there, but Williamson makes it very easy to do. to learn about. And I think that is a big thing for people to know, that the beginning of his book until he gets to the Python stuff. Yeah, he explains everything that and the I don't know. I loved tonight. So I thank you. But
Thank
I
you,
hope
Gary.
Williamson appreciates it. So
Thank you very much. Appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Gary,
yeah,
thank you
because
so much.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was
So
just going to end the recording. But Gary, thank you. Williamson, thank you so much for coming and joining us. Please do fill out the form to get a free copy of Williamson's book. And again, Wednesday, February 11th, just a little reminder, software as a service is dead. SaaS is dead. We're going to have a live session discussion. Please sign up for that, and we'll meet you then. All right, I'm going to stop the recording, and we're going to stick around for some overtime, and I'll see y'all next week.